Before we dive into this HOA Battle Royale, hit that subscribe button and join the Karen army, because trust me, you do not want to miss the next suburban scandal I unleash. One click and boom, you're officially fabulous. The HOA never saw it coming. One moment, a quiet suburban cul-de-sac. The next, Goldie Karen, strutting down the sidewalk like she was storming a red carpet at the Oscars. Her blonde waves bounced in slow motion, oversized sunglasses reflecting the horrified faces of her neighbors. She wasn't just going to the HOA meeting. Oh no, she was going to war. Tonight, Karen muttered to herself, heels clicking like a battle drum. Justice will be served with a side of sass. Her mission? To fight the most scandalous, outrageous, downright criminal new rule the HOA had proposed. No more decorative flamingos allowed in front yards. Karen whipped off her sunglasses dramatically as if cameras were flashing. Excuse me? Did Betsy Henderson just declare war on freedom? On art? On flamingos? She clutched her pearl necklace, gasping louder than necessary, making Mrs. Henderson across the street close her blinds in fear. Walking into the HOA building, Karen didn't just enter a room. She entered like Beyoncé entering Coachella. Lights, invisible fog, and imaginary fanfare. Every head turned, half in dread, half in morbid curiosity. Karen, sighed Tom, the HOA president, rubbing his temples. Please, let's keep this civil. Karen smirked. Civil? Honey, if I wanted civil, I'd go to jury duty. She plopped her designer tote on the table with a thud, pulling out an arsenal of props, color-coded charts, a megaphone, and, yes, a miniature flamingo statue, bedazzled to blinding levels. Gasps, whispers, Mrs. Parker nearly fainted. Karen raised the flamingo like Simba in The Lion King. This, she declared with a dramatic pause, isn't lawn decor. This is a way of life. The tension snapped like a rubber band. HOA members shuffled nervously. Tom's face turned redder than a stop sign. Someone whispered. She brought props again. Karen leaned forward, her deep blue eyes locking onto her opponents like a hawk zeroing in on prey. You think you can take flamingos from me? Sweetie, I'll chain myself to my lawn before I let that happen. And if you don't believe me, she slammed down a pair of pink fuzzy handcuffs on the table. The room froze. Everyone knew this was no ordinary meeting. This was the opening round of Goldie Karen versus the HOA. And Karen? Oh, she was just getting warmed up. If the HOA thought Karen's dramatic handcuff slam was the peak of chaos, they were wrong. Dead wrong. Ladies and gentlemen of this so-called council, Karen began, pacing with the authority of a trial lawyer in a high-stakes courtroom drama. You may outlaw tiki torches, you may outlaw wind chimes, but flamingos? That's a constitutional violation of my God-given right to accessorize. Tom, the HOA president, pinched the bridge of his nose. Karen, please. It's not that serious. Karen spun on her heels so fast her blonde waves whipped like a shampoo commercial. Not that serious? Tom, you wear socks with sandals, your opinion is already invalid. The crowd oohed. Even Mrs. Parker clutched her pearls and muttered, well, he does. Karen strutted back to her tote bag and whipped out a giant poster board, covered in photos of famous flamingos throughout history. Cartoons, zoo mascots, inflatable pool floats. Exhibit A, cultural significance. Exhibit B, neighborhood morale. Exhibit C, fabulousness. Need I go on? Tom groaned. You spent all week on this, didn't you? Karen gasped dramatically. Tom, this isn't a project. This is a movement. And just when the HOA thought it couldn't get worse, she pulled out her trump card, the petition. Over 50 signatures, some from neighbors, some from delivery drivers. One suspiciously signed Britney Spears. Karen slapped it down. The people have spoken. And when the people speak, HOA rules tremble. Gasps. Mrs. Henderson, the woman who proposed the ban, hissed like a cornered cat. This is an outrage! Karen leaned forward, lowering her voice for dramatic effect. No, Betsy, outrage is outlawing joy. Outrage is ripping plastic birds from innocent lawns. Outrage is underestimating me. The room fell into stunned silence. Even the snack table, sad little crackers and warm soda, seemed to tremble under the weight of her speech. Then, in one swift motion, Karen whipped out her phone, held it up high and announced, Smile for TikTok, everyone! The world needs to see this injustice. Tom practically jumped out of his seat. You are not live streaming this meeting, Karen. Karen, eyes wide with faux innocence. Oh, too late, sweetheart. We're already at 1,200 viewers. Say hi to the internet. The comments rolled in fast. Free the flamingos! Karen for HOA president. Tom's socks with sandals, unforgivable. The room descended into chaos. People yelled. Papers flew. Mrs. Parker fainted for real this time. And there stood Karen, basking in the glow of her phone screen, smirking like a victorious general. The room was still buzzing from Karen's Live stream when Tom banged his gavel so hard. It nearly snapped in half. Enough! This is an official meeting, not whatever circus you're running, Karen. Karen tilted her head, gave a slow smirk, and purred, "Oh, honey, it's not a circus. It's a spectacle. And trust me, tickets are selling out." But then, just when she thought she was untouchable, Betsy Henderson stood. She adjusted her glasses, narrowed her eyes, and hissed, "Karen talks about freedom and art. But let's not forget, she has skeletons in her garage." The crowd gasped. Even the snack table went silent. Karen froze mid-smirk. "Excuse me? Skeletons?" "Betsy, the only skeletons I have are from Halloween, and they're fabulous. Thank you very much." Betsy slammed down a thick folder. Exhibit A. Photographs from last December. Karen's lawn, covered in illegal inflatables well past the holiday deadline. A Santa riding a flamingo. An elf DJ booth. It was chaos! Karen dramatically clutched her chest. Those were limited edition collectibles. How dare you slander Santa's side hustle? The crowd murmured. Some nodded in agreement. Others whispered, "She does go overboard." But Betsy wasn't done. She yanked out another photo. Exhibit B. A drone shot of Karen's backyard pool party. Past noise curfew. "You blasted ABBA at 2 a.m. Karen snapped back without missing a beat. First of all, ABBA is timeless. Second, if you can't dance to Dancing Queen at 2 a.m., what's the point of life? The room oohed. Even Tom almost nodded before catching himself. Then Betsy unleashed the final blow. She held up a receipt. Exhibit C, Karen ordered. 48 flamingos on Amazon. 48! The audience gasped so loudly, Mrs. Parker fainted again. This time directly onto the snack table. Crackers everywhere. Karen narrowed her eyes. She leaned in, voice deadly calm. "Yes, Betsy, I ordered 48 flamingos. Do you know why?" She paused, holding the silence like a master showman. "Because one flamingo is decor. But 48 flamingos? That's a statement." The crowd erupted into cheers, claps, and even a chant. "Karen! Karen! Karen!" Tom pounded the gavel, desperate for order. "This is not a pep rally. This is a homeowners association." Karen raised her hands like a victorious queen, basking in the chaos. "Correction, Tom. This is history in the making." But Betsy wasn't done yet. She hissed over the chanting. "Enjoy your little rebellion, Karen, because next meeting, I'll have evidence that will destroy you." Karen arched an eyebrow, smirking. "Sweetie, the only thing you're destroying is your reputation with that knockoff handbag." The room went wild, and in that moment, everyone knew. This battle was far from over. The HOA chamber looked like a war zone. Papers littered the floor. Mrs. Parker was still unconscious over the snack table, and Karen stood tall like a victorious gladiator basking in the crowd's chants. But Tom, the HOA president, wasn't about to give up. He raised the broken gavel and shouted, "Enough! This council is officially enacting emergency authority." Karen gasped dramatically. "Emergency authority? What is this, a dictatorship? Should I expect tanks on my lawn by sunrise, Tom?" Tom slammed down a fresh rule sheet. Effective immediately. A temporary suspension of all lawn decorations, flamingos, included until further notice. The room gasped. Betsy grinned like she'd just stolen Christmas. Karen's jaw dropped so far it could have rolled under the table. She pointed a perfectly manicured finger at Tom. "You can't just ban joy." "Tom! What's next? Outlawing garden gnomes? Arresting hydrangeas?" Betsy snapped. "This is order, Karen. Something you've never respected." Karen leaned across the table, her deep blue eyes narrowing. "Sweetheart, the only thing I don't respect is beige." The crowd erupted again, half gasping, half cheering. Tom tried to regain control. "This meeting is adjourned." But Karen wasn't finished. Oh no. She whipped out her megaphone, flicked her blonde hair back, and boomed, "Attention, citizens of Maplewood! The HOA has declared war on fun." Through the windows, neighbors peered in. Karen swung open the doors dramatically, like Moses parting the Red Sea, and marched outside. "Follow me if you believe in freedom," she cried, raising her glittering flamingo like a flag. To Tom's horror, people actually followed her. A parade of neighbors spilled into the cul-de-sac, chanting, "Free the flamingos!" A kid ran home to grab a blow-up flamingo pool float. Someone else pulled a Christmas flamingo out of storage. Within minutes, yards began sprouting pink birds like a neon uprising. Tom's face turned beet red. "This is illegal! I'll call security." Karen spun on her heels, smiling like a queen addressing her subjects. "Call them. By the time they arrive, this neighborhood will look like Miami Beach exploded." Betsy shrieked, "You're going to destroy everything, Karen!" Karen leaned closer, lowering her voice to a whisper only Betsy could hear. "No, darling. I'm going to make it fabulous." The crowd roared. Flamingos were rising everywhere, on porches, in gardens, even duct taped to mailboxes. It was complete anarchy. And in the middle of it all stood Goldie Karen, one hand on her hip, the other holding her flamingo aloft like a revolutionary banner. This wasn't just rebellion. This was the beginning of a full-blown suburban revolution. By the time the sun dipped below the cul-de-sac, the neighborhood had transformed into something unrecognizable. Flamingos lined the streets like pink soldiers. Lawns glowed under neon floodlights. Even Mrs. Parker, revived at last, was waving, a feather boa and chanting with the crowd. The HOA had lost control. But Tom wasn't done. Standing on the steps of the clubhouse, gavel in hand, he shouted over the chaos. "This ends tonight! The bylaws will prevail." Karen strutted to the front, heels clicking against the pavement, blonde hair shimmering like a battle crown. She raised her megaphone with theatrical precision. "Oh, Tom, sweet, sweet Tom, you can write your bylaws. You can slam your little gavel. But you'll never stop the flamingo." The crowd erupted. "Free the flamingos!" Betsy shoved through the crowd, face redder than her cardigan. "Karen, you've turned this into a circus." Karen gasped dramatically. "Circus? Darling, this is Broadway. And guess who's the star?" She struck a pose as fireworks, yes, actual fireworks from a neighbor's garage stash, exploded behind her. Tom tried to rally his council. "Neighbors, please. Remember order, remember peace." But Karen climbed atop a lawn chair like it was a throne, raising her glittered flamingo high. "Order is boring. Peace is beige. But this," she gestured to the pink chaos all around, "this is community spirit." And then came the twist no one expected. A small, trembling voice piped up from the back. It was little Timmy, age 7, holding a toy flamingo. "Mr. Tom, why don't you like flamingos? They make me happy." The crowd went silent. All eyes turned to Tom. His face softened for the first time. He lowered the gavel, sighing. "Timmy, it's not that I don't like flamingos. It's that Karen puts them on my lawn too. I found one in my mailbox last week." The crowd gasped. Karen's eyes widened, then narrowed. She crossed her arms. "That was a gift, Tom. A symbol of neighborly love." "You're welcome." Awkward silence. Then, Timmy lifted his flamingo high. "I think everyone should be allowed to have flamingos if they want." The crowd cheered again, louder than before. Even some HOA members sheepishly raised their hands in agreement. Tom slumped in defeat. "Fine. The flamingo ban is revoked." Karen leapt from the chair, strutting forward like a victorious queen. "And let this be a lesson, Tom. Never wage war against fabulousness." The crowd erupted into applause, chanting her name like a rock star. Flamingos glowed under string lights. Neighbors danced in the street. And even Betsy was cornered into accepting a pink feather boa from Karen herself. Karen smirked at the camera, megaphone in hand, and declared the final word. Sure, more like Karen's Kingdom of Fabulous Freedom. "You're welcome." Cue confetti cannons. Cue fireworks. Cue chaos. Goldie Karen had won. If you laughed and gasped, smash that like hit subscribe, and join me for the next dramatic disaster.